I think my mom expects to move in with me when she retires. Update 2, so she might be chased by Mafia guys, because they bought the last building she operated from and she was always late on rent which accumulated daily interest and she didn't see it in the contract. Now I'm worried about my brother who might be a target. WTF, am I in a movie? Update, wow, so I finally decided to call my brother to share my thoughts / he generally knows and feels similar / with him and he is actually on the way to my mom so she can transfer her whole last property on his name. She said after that she will tell him why she's doing it. Plus he told me she / her accountant fault as she claims / was showing inventory in her business over 1M and it's really almost nothing. But somehow avoided being audited because they caught the auditor in corruption. I doubt that an accountant would put the invoices wrong by themselves for years, she must have asked her. And when I think that she was telling me years ago how her business partner started putting more inventory on purpose and she had to split, it must have been her actually. I feel so dumb she hides so much financially from me. I don't need her money, I'm fine without her, just feels again like I'm not a person enough to talk / share anything with and it freaking hurts. I'm going to try to be numb to her and be honest, I don't want her here. TW, verbal, emotional and physical abuse, SA mentions, drug abuse and suicide. First I, F41, want to say my mom, F63, is ambitious, has her own business and at some point had 2 day and evening businesses. She works hard and was our main breadwinner when I was growing up. Lived also with dad, grandma and brother. I never really had emotional connection with my mother. I always longed for one. I feel like I should come to terms that I will have the bare minimum of it. I think she is emotionally immature. Most of her life has had anger issues, smokes cigarettes literally non-stop and drinks every day, sometimes starting at lunch. I don't think she is an alcoholic, but I might be wrong. It's kinda socially acceptable to drink every day where I'm from originally. A few years ago she sold our apartment to pay off her second business debts, and didn't tell me for 2 to 3 years at least / thinking I might not want to visit maybe, / she said she also doesn't know why she kept that information. She admitted that first business is good but uses money to cover for second businesses and eventually shut it down, but still lives in the huge building / hotel with restaurant / and is trying to sell it. She said we might be paying debts after she dies, but I said no way I will pay ever for anything when I am working barely part-time from home. She had asked me to move back and be the manager for said business when it was open, but I refused right away because I knew in 2 weeks we will be arguing if something isn't her way. Plus I was right to guess it wouldn't be successful for long. She forced my brother to work weekends there for years and he had to travel so much and not spend time with his GF. Currently has 1 loan and insurance on it if she passes. She hints to help us if she sells the building, and I realize I don't want her to think she can pay off our or part of our mortgage and move in. She asked how much is to rent a place near me. Think tourist US area. I said a lot. I have offered her to come maximum 6 months here and 6 months in Eastern Europe, basically close to my brother. To buy with the money an apartment closer to him or a house to do her favorite thing, gardening. She starts crying that she's going to be alone. I said well, meet someone, and she doesn't want a man to have her as a maid, again traditional gender bias in said country. She longs to see grandkids and participate in parties, and when she comes and I take her to said parties she is not happy because she doesn't speak the language. I don't know what to do to help her be happy. I also tried clearing the past with her and asked her to apologize for some things, but in her mind she was never wrong and makes fun of me saying that I feel traumatized. Some examples of that are: I was regularly beaten as a kid, slapped as a teen, yelled at every day, even for getting a B at school. I was a good kid, yells to me about the smallest things in every setting and in front of anyone. I guess my dad had a pill addiction and drank a lot and killed himself, but I doubt it was only him at fault. She was yelling constantly to him and alienating him from his family, so I think maybe he couldn't take it. No one let me see the death note he left. I was only told he loved us and had mental illness. Gives me a gift of cleaning my yard and buying some plants but won't stop and makes bigger and bigger plans and wants to rearrange my furniture while visiting. Complains about my lifestyle and my brothers and how I raise my kids and how he has no kids. Talks against family members for no real reason and alienates me subconsciously from them sometimes for years. She was mocking my appearance like saying I had big nose, big ears, hanging butt, and if we both lost weight mine would still hang like my dad's and hers won't. Didn't let me work until 20 old because I wanted to save and buy clothes I actually liked. I was late home once as a teenager and was because of SA. She called me a W-re and kicked me out for a bit. Oh yeah, and ripped my new clothes only hoodie I actually liked and got to choose. She tended to rip and cut people's clothes if she was mad at them. When she's over, if I ask her to watch the kids, she literally sits down and watches them. Usually only calls online to see them, not me. Comes to visit grandkids and tells me to hit them, which pissed me off, and told her everything I wanted her to apologize for, but she never thinks she is wrong and told me to be thankful I was born. Forced me to not study art and do economy in high school and college, so I barely graduated college because I really wanted to study something else. I admit she did support me financially until 20 to 21, but I wish I could work earlier. I finally taught myself some art and use it in my current home part-time job, soon to be full-time job. Before I had kids I had good career, but now hubby does most work outside. When I started my business my mom at first mocked me and yelled at me that what I'm doing, but now seems proud. She only ever showed any respect to me after my business started. My husband likes her, does everything she wants, my friend loves her, and I can't help but feel I am an ungrateful AH. They both said everything she did, including physical abuse, made me the strong successful person I am now. Like what? I plan to raise my kids better and hopefully she and my husband don't guilt me to have her live here. I really tried to get away all these years. Please tell me the truth. Am I obligated to something or am I being ungrateful? Edit. Husband is finally seeing and understands how all this affects me and is fully supportive of whatever I decide. He is genuinely concerned about me and regularly checks on me to make sure I am okay.
For those of you that have gone no contact with a parent, what was your final straw? My mother and I have always had a struggled relationship. She's got horrible narcissistic and controlling tendencies, was an alcoholic while I was growing up, and was very much an all-for-show parent. She acted one way behind closed doors, but around family and friends she was a model parent and will tell you straight to your face that she was the best mother ever, when in reality she was doing the bare minimum to raise both me and my sister. When I turned 18 I moved out and went through long periods of not talking to her at all. When I became pregnant with my daughter a few years ago, I tried my best to salvage our relationship so my daughter could grow up knowing my mom's side of the family without drama, and we became as close as we can be given our history. I am now pregnant with twins and I am the point where I honestly do not know how much longer I can handle dealing with her and everything that surrounds her. She acts as if she's just entitled to do whatever or say whatever she wants because she's going to be a grandma again. If you confront her about it, she throws a pity party or gets super angry because she obviously can't be excited for us. Upside down face. Since finding out I was pregnant, she has shared the news of the pregnancy with her whole family before we had the chance to share ourselves. Shared the genders before we had the chance to share ourselves. She came to our gender reveal party and within 5 minutes of us cutting the cake she was found on her phone in a corner at the party telling the whole world. We had no idea she was going to do this, but obviously should have known given how she outed the pregnancy. Acts as if she is entitled to every single piece of medical info and will call me nonstop while I'm in doctor's apps for updates. If I don't answer in a timely manner, she will then start blowing my partner's phone up. Told me, don't think I'm going to be the one throwing you a baby shower, only to offer to help my partner's mother and sister when she found they were throwing one for us. This was done all for show so she could look good in front of his family. Asked me to apply for a store credit card so she could use the new card discount of 30% to buy us a baby stroller. We never once asked her to do this and told her numerous times we have the big purchases covered, but the stroller is what will be out in public the most and gives her the opportunity to tell everyone she bought it for us. She did the exact same thing when she bought my daughter's stroller. Every time I had the stroller out she had to gloat about how she was such a great grandmother and didn't she make a good stroller choice. Offered to help watch my daughter while I was in the hospital recovering from a C-section, only to schedule a 3-week vacation during this time a few days ago. Asked if I'd be willing to schedule my C-section at 34 weeks so the babies, both boys, could have the same birthday as my late grandfather. Provided various other dates of family members' birthdays or special events such as wedding anniversaries that would not work for the babies' birthdays because she does not want them to share a date with that specific person. I could seriously go on, but these are some of the worst that come to mind right off the bat. I'm seriously thinking about throwing in the towel and telling her I can't be involved with her anymore due to sheer fact of she causing me so much stress and anxiety, and I don't think I can handle her continuing for the remainder of my kids' lives. Has anyone ever cut a parent off during such a significant time in your life? If so, how did you go about it?
How do I deal with my sister's father? My sister's 14. Dad left pretty early on in my sister's life. I want to say around 3 or 4 years old. Recently, he's been trying to come back, but he made it obvious very quickly that he isn't the best parent. Every day, he stops by at 6 in the morning to drop my sister off at school. Despite her constantly telling him that she doesn't need him to do that, he does it anyway. He announces his arrival by calling my sister's phone. And when that doesn't work, which it wouldn't since she probably turns her phone off the night before, he goes straight to calling either our mother or the house phone. This all came to a head one day when our mom, who is also quite entitled, expressed rage at my sister for her dad's constant phone calls. I told her that doesn't make any sense at all, and she responded, as she often does, by pointing out that she's the parent and I am the child. The next day, my sister came home from school and told us that her dad hit her for receiving texts from mom saying that he needs to stop calling the house phone. They exploded into an argument between my mom and my sister that basically ended with my sister telling mom she isn't being a good mother and my mother telling her to stay in her place. I, 19, was, and still am, completely fucking powerless. I'm tired of seeing my sister so upset at the end of every day. And I'm pissed off at my mom for doing nothing. So what can I do? The thought of filing a restraining order has floated around in my mind. Would I need my mother for that? Is that a completely dumb idea? Would confronting him be a better idea? I don't know what to do. I feel so fucking useless, and I want to help my sister any way I can. Edit. I confronted my mother last night. That seemed like the best course of action. I yelled at her and shamed her for not doing enough to protect her child and not valuing her happiness. It was probably the most assertive I'd ever been towards her. I could tell there were moments of her thinking I could be right, but rather than actually taking my criticism, she went back to her default stance of "SD if you're a kid." I ended our argument by telling her she must love being useless. I don't think talking to her was ever going to work. I think it might fully be up to me at this point.
My girlfriend's mother wants me and my girlfriend to pay for her horses. So my girlfriend mom bought her 2 horses when she was younger and they still have them. Her mom refuses to feed them or take care of them. We have been paying for all their needs like hoof care, vet bills, and feed for over a year now. The only thing that we don't pay for is the water and where they are at my girlfriend's mom's house that has land. We have been trying to get them out of her name and into my girlfriend and my name, but she refuses to give them to us or sale. We made her a reasonable offer for the 2 horses, but she refuses. She says she won't take any less than $50,000 for the 2. The 2 horses aren't worth that much. They aren't rodeo horses or show horses and never been on a ranch. We are still working on breaking them from being spooked by simple things like rocks, trees swaying, and other little things. Where they are, the pen is falling apart because it's made of wood and hog panels, and she refuses to let us fix it so they won't escape. We are gonna try to go the legal route and collect everything we can, showing that she can't take care of them and won't take care of them, and take it to animal control and law enforcement to try to get them in our name. Any help?
Entitled Mother Threats again. Alrighty, so if you've been following up with my stories, you will know all the trials, threats, gaslighting, and mental abuse I have gone through in the past years. Well, I've finally decided to give my half-brother on my father's side, who was raised by his mother and has no affiliation with the chaos that is my family, my child. I've been keeping it a secret from my mother because I know if she knew things would get bad. The agreement. For those curious, I will be signing a temporary custody contract with my half-brother that he will care for my child as a parent alongside his wife, allowing me, the birth parent of the child, to get my life together and get away from my entitled mother. It was planned to be done on the 18th of this month, but it might have to be moved forward because my entitled mother, who has no grandparent rights to my child due to me not being properly adopted, found out. She told my brother she knew and threatened to take my child, call CPS on me, or call the cops on me. despite this being an illegal way to allow them temporary custody of my child. Do I want to do this? No, I don't. Is it something that would greatly benefit my daughter and I? Absolutely, because as it stands, I'm on food stamps with no income and no way to get her into a school while lacking the mental health to be able to properly care for my child. So I'm wondering, can she actually get me for any of this just for trying to get my daughter in a loving and financially stable environment just so I can straighten my life out? That way I can better myself as a human and a parent to my kid while not affecting her in a negative way if I fail?
Mother at school threatens to sue over an accidental tripping of her daughter. I'm new to posting on this sub and I hope I formatted this correctly. I, 15M, an entitled child, 13-14F, were in the same science class together. There are many ways to walk to the front of the class. Entitled child constantly walks as close as possible to me whenever they have to go up. One day I was standing and blocking the row and she decided that she would try and run past me. There was room to maybe slide by but not much. As she runs, she trips over my foot because I stand with my feet spread out like a duck. I always have. Entitled child is seen on the ground by the teacher and I get written up for this. The day this occurred was a Friday before it tripped to another state. After school, all the people that are going on the trip are standing outside with their respective chaperones. One of them happens to be the entitled mother, who had brought with her the entitled grandmother. These two women get in my face and start screaming at me that what I did was assault, and if I came close to their child again, I would be arrested for assault and they would press charges.
I finally told them, I'm not moving out of my apartment. And it clearly did not go well. I don't know why I thought it would. I really want my family to just accept the situation, nothing more. I haven't asked for anything else. I believed that they would get used to the idea of a 26-year-old Muslim moving out and being independent. I know that by them offering to cover my rent in an apartment of their choosing, or going to live in their apartment is another way of control, no matter how much they deny it. I came again this weekend and nothing has changed. I don't understand the necessity of having to be present for them all the time. That doesn't fix relationships. Since the beginning, the word I've heard most is selfish, and when you hear it too many times, I guess you start believing it. It's like I have committed a capital sin. I didn't move out because of illegal issues or for a man. I moved out because of me, and they find that so hard to believe, and their feelings are valid. They are, but Islam, at least not that I know of, doesn't prohibit women from living alone. I'm so tired of having conversations when it's actually them telling me their point of view and I having to understand theirs and them feeling frustrated. But when it's the opposite, I feel like how I feel and what I want is not valid, unless they have a say in it. I have constantly said that being part of the family is sacrifice, but do I have to sacrifice me? My happiness? For everyone else? I did it for a long time, and I even considered the worst of the worst because I felt there was no way out. But now that I'm actually being happy, and I know that they can feel it, it becomes a problem. They have told me several times to give them explanations of why, and at the beginning I did. But it wasn't an answer they wanted, so I just stopped responding altogether. I'm going back to my apartment, and I honestly don't know what the next steps are. I just hate that my siblings are completely against me and that my sister has to deal with my parents' tantrums.
Mom freaks out over my tattoos and any bodily autonomy. I apologize if this is lengthy, but I'd like to give context and background information. I, 24F, have loved tattoos and piercings since I was a young teen. My mom, 54F, has always had a hatred for any body modifications, haircutting, dyeing, piercings, tattoos, particularly on me and my sister, which is off since my brother is a tattoo artist. She never explicitly explained why she doesn't like them or why she doesn't want me to have them, but when I would ask, she would basically shut the conversation down and said, because I said so. There have been several times in my life where I would try and rebel against her beliefs, which often lead to big fights. The biggest fight is when I was 19 and I really wanted to cut my hair short, to my shoulder. Up until this point, I always had long hair and my mom would always trim my hair. When I told her I wanted shorter hair, she got extremely mad and said, "No, you'll look like a boy." After days of trying to convince her, we agreed that I was allowed to cut my hair to my shoulder blades. I accepted this because I knew this is the best outcome I could get. So she cut my hair, and I was not satisfied with how it looked. I wanted it shorter like how I initially mentioned. The next day I went back to college, where I lived with my roommates at the time. I decided, fuck it, it's my hair and I want to love myself when I look in the mirror. So I went and got my hair cut a couple more inches to the desired length I wanted. I loved it. I felt so free and liberated. When my mom found out, she ripped me a new one. Called me disrespectful, she was hysterically crying, and she threatened to stop paying for my tuition and I would have to move back home. My dad reached out and told me I really upset her and I should apologize, which I did. I have massive guilt and pleasing issues with my mom. Anyhow, that is a little background info on how my mom typically responds to when I want to do things for myself. Fast forward to a couple of months ago. I decided I wanted to get another tattoo piece done. I have 2 other tattoos that my mom is aware of. With my other 2, my mom was very involved with the process. She decided size, placement, everything. I basically only got to decide what it looks like. I went along with this because I knew it was the only way I was going to get them. I'm not upset with how they turned out. I love them regardless, but mind you, I was 20 and 21 when I got these done and paid for both of them myself. Now with this 3rd piece, I wanted to do this by myself as a 24-year-old who now lives on her own and makes her own money. When I told my mom, it turned into the biggest argument we had ever had. I have never heard my mom talk to me like this. She called me selfish, disrespectful, and accused me of only coming to talk/visit her when I want to tell her bad news, getting a tattoo. She said she doesn't even recognize me anymore. This obviously upset me and I left the room in tears. When I calmed down and came back to talk to her, she continued to lay into me about how I am ruining my body and how I am going to look on my wedding day, which by the way I am nowhere near getting married. I tried to explain to her that her words were upsetting me, and I just want her to support and love me no matter what. She couldn't give me this reassurance and continued to play the victim as if I am the one doing something terrible to her. I left her house very distraught. After a couple of days, we talked on the phone, but she never apologized or brought up that situation again. This is usually how it went. I ended up getting the tattoo, which I am absolutely in love with. I hide it when I see my mom, but when she does see it, she ignores it. She has since made me promise to not get any more, which I did not agree to, of course. I want more and soon, but I am crazy worried about her reaction again. I love my mom and care what she thinks of me, and I want a good relationship with her. Why can't she accept all of me? Is this narcissistic behavior? Anyone else in a similar position, feeling lost and wanting to live my own life? TLDR, my mom, suspected narcissist, feels she can control my bodily autonomy and hates when I get tattoos/piercings/haircut, etc. Any tips on what to do? I want more tats, but don't want to ruin my relationship with her.
Dad gets mad at me for not being able to sleep. I, 14, never missed a single day of school this school year except when I was sick for 3 days in August. I've always showed up to school and never been late. I have straight A's and I am doing well in school. Recently, I have been having anxiety problems a lot along with my mother. My mom's anxiety got so bad that my grandmother had to fly on a plane 2,000 plus miles to our home to help my mom. My mom has been taking time off of work since last week. My dad has been not fond about my grandma being here since it bothers him for some reason. My dad has not been supportive of my mom's mental health and medical issues, so, from what I am assuming, my mom needed someone to understand and support and guide her. Today, I did not sleep at all last night. I was super nauseous and anxious. I stayed up all night trying to fall asleep, but eventually did at 4 a.m., 1 hour before I have to get ready for school. I hoped that my dad would be merciful and let me stay home for once this school year so I can calm down with my anxiety and get some rest and study later today for my upcoming tests and then go back to school tomorrow. My alarm went off. My mom and grandma were still asleep. I got up and told my dad my situation in the kitchen calmly. Then he gets mad that I only slept for less than an hour and told me I am going to have to deal with it. I told him that I won't be able to concentrate and there's no point in going to school if I am not going to learn anything from being exhausted and tired. He told me that it didn't matter and I will be fine. Now I am irritated as hell and my anxiety is through the roof. I honestly don't know how I am going to survive on less than an hour of sleep today.
Need advice about the situation with my dad. I'm mid-20 female, was raised by a single father. I have 2 other siblings. I love my father, but he wasn't perfect growing up. One of the things he do was never stand up for us when we were in trouble. You know, the parents who constantly defend their kids even when they're undeniable proof they did something. I had the complete opposite. If a stranger comes up to him and says something about me, he believes it, no questions asked. Some guys was harassing me, and when it told my father, he insulted me to the guy and blamed me. Growing up, it thought this was normal until I went to therapy and learned to stand up for myself. Which bring this to now. My siblings don't know this because they were too young to understand, but when I was 11 or 12, my cousin, my aunt daughter, got arrested for selling Mary Jane and BTW. There is an over 10-year age gap between me and my cousin. My aunt daughter was a problem child, constantly getting into trouble and my aunt bailing her out. My aunt kept enabling her behavior by being in denial. Then one day reality hit when some people who my cousin owed money to for the Mary Jane shot up my aunt's house with my grandparents inside. My grandfather ended up getting shot and being taken to the hospital. Thank God he survived because the bullet almost hit his spine. When the police investigated, they discovered that my cousin was selling drugs out of my aunt's house and had drugs in her car my aunt bought for her. My cousin went to jail and my aunt had a come to Jesus moment and didn't defend my cousin anymore. Like she almost got her father killed. My father saw this and held a grudge for my cousin and took it out on us. He admitted that because of my cousin's actions he did not want us to end up like her, so that's why he would never stick up to us even if it turns out we were right. Now me and my siblings are adults. We don't go to our father for emotional support or tell him about life events, and he pissed about it. I did tell my siblings what he admitted to me and they are pissed too. I don't blame them, like we are paying for the actions of someone else when we were literal children. My advice is, how do I approach this situation?
Need advice about the situation with my dad. I'm mid-20 female, was raised by a single father. I have 2 other siblings. I love my father, but he wasn't perfect growing up. One of the things he do was never stand up for us when we were in trouble. You know, the parents who constantly defend their kids even when they're undeniable proof they did something. I had the complete opposite. If a stranger comes up to him and says something about me, he believes it, no questions asked. Some guys was harassing me, and when it told my father, he insulted me to the guy and blamed me. Growing up, it thought this was normal until I went to therapy and learned to stand up for myself. Which bring this to now. My siblings don't know this because they were too young to understand, but when I was 11 or 12, my cousin, my aunt daughter, got arrested for selling Mary Jane and BTW. There is an over 10-year age gap between me and my cousin. My aunt daughter was a problem child, constantly getting into trouble and my aunt bailing her out. My aunt kept enabling her behavior by being in denial. Then one day reality hit when some people who my cousin owed money to for the Mary Jane shot up my aunt's house with my grandparents inside. My grandfather ended up getting shot and being taken to the hospital. Thank God he survived because the bullet almost hit his spine. When the police investigated, they discovered that my cousin was selling drugs out of my aunt's house and had drugs in her car my aunt bought for her. My cousin went to jail and my aunt had a come to Jesus moment and didn't defend my cousin anymore. Like she almost got her father killed. My father saw this and held a grudge for my cousin and took it out on us. He admitted that because of my cousin's actions he did not want us to end up like her, so that's why he would never stick up to us even if it turns out we were right. Now me and my siblings are adults. We don't go to our father for emotional support or tell him about life events, and he pissed about it. I did tell my siblings what he admitted to me, and they are pissed too. I don't blame them, like we are paying for the actions of someone else when we were literal children. My advice is, how do I approach this situation?
My entitled mom seems to be blaming me for my poor health and won't stop pushing for natural remedies. I kinda wish we could include photos, because this is about some text messages my mom sent my husband. I'll do my best to paraphrase the conversation and provide context. TL, DR at the end. I have biliary disease and my mom keeps going on about me eating better, doing liver flushes, and stuff that isn't helpful and could even be harmful. I had to go on a liquid and then soft foods diet last year. I'm still mostly on it, though I have been able to add on a few things and still have to go slowly and carefully. Most of my protein comes from High Protein Boost, a nutrition replacement drink, per my doctor. She keeps trying to get me to take turmeric and drink turmeric tea, which says on the package, do not consume if you have liver, gallbladder, or biliary problems. We're pretty sure she snuck me some when she was helping me recover from surgery a couple months ago, because I had some issues one day in particular after she brought me a tea that didn't taste right. I was still really drugged up, so at the time I didn't think about it and only later realized she had left the tea for me to drink. I put the pieces together and realized what she had done. When I sent her a photo of the warning label, she said she was glad I saw that before trying it. Faced with rolling eyes before that instance, she had ordered some various supplements, including turmeric and curcumin, for me and had them shipped directly to the house. She texted my husband and was encouraging him to give them to me. He helps me with my medications when I'm too sick to get out of bed, and I trust him wholeheartedly to keep me safe. Obviously, he hasn't done that. He said if she wants to waste her money, that's on her. Despite knowing about the warning label on the tea and us repeatedly telling her I can't take it, she is still sending my husband articles about the benefits of turmeric and curcumin. This is where the text conversation started between them yesterday. She sent him a journal article about the benefits of curcumin. The article was from 2013, and he responded with a more recent 2021 article explaining how patients with liver issues are negatively affected by turmeric and curcumin. Fun fact about my husband, he is extremely patient and doesn't fly off the handle. We also live in her house that we pay the mortgage and HOA on. She lives with her new husband 2 hours away. The mortgage and HOA combined is half of what we could rent a tiny dump for locally. We are actively saving for a house, but the market here has been terrible. After that, she went off on her second favorite topic, the COVID vaccine. We had the original bivalent shots as soon as we were eligible to get them and have had annual boosters since. We don't get them as often as she seems to think though. We get it at the same time as our annual flu vaccine. She asked him if we'd gotten any more shots since our last one in October. No, because that's not how they work. But we do plan on getting our next booster in the fall. After that, she sent him her diet that helps numbers. I don't know what numbers she's referring to, but my liver function tests are scary bad. Like, I've had 6 procedures in the last year to try to figure out why. Her diet recommendations aren't bad. It's a good basic healthy diet. Lean meat, lots of vegetables and fruits, oatmeal, Greek yogurt, that type of stuff. But they're essentially what I'm already eating, except I'm still not able to eat a lot. But meat specifically is difficult. I supplement with High Protein Boost, which she thinks is harmful since it's not natural. Also, I'm allergic to oats and have to keep reminding her. I love oatmeal and wish I could eat it, but it triggers joint inflammation and skin issues. Then she sent another long text which really hurt. Sometimes there is too much info out there that's contradicting each other. Nothing natural is harmful unless it has added chemicals. God didn't make junk. Zany face with years of joy, woman shrugging, but don't worry. I'm done. All it seems to do is upset. She has to get sick and tired of being sick and tired of this like you, and I did. And please, you don't have to tell her I've said anything. 2 hearts, and yes, those are her emojis. 3 things about that specific text. First, she says she's done a lot, but will continually bring up unnecessary and unhelpful stuff, even when I ask her to stop. Second, she doesn't think I'm sick and tired enough. I've had a year's worth of poor health on top of having 18 years of these cycles with my liver. They've only gotten worse over time. And I've tried everything, including dieting, which did help, but obviously not enough because I'm sick again. I've been dismissed enough by doctors in the past, and I've finally gotten into a good team at a good hospital who have all assured me it's not in my head and I'm really sick. I feel like she wants me to suffer. I honestly can't imagine getting sicker. It's already disrupting my life, and I've been lucky it's not any worse. I don't want it to be. I want to get better. She always told me growing up I was a hypochondriac whenever I would complain about stuff like frequent headaches. When I reminded her of that a few months ago, she gasped and said she'd never say anything like that. I remember specific instances, and it was way more than once or twice. Third, she always tells him not to say anything to me, which is hilarious. He's my husband and best friend. Then whenever she goes on these rants with him, she'll kinda disappear and won't talk to either of us for a week or more, which is honestly fine. I need the breaks. Which makes us feel like she knows he tells me. I've never indicated that I knew about the conversations or asked her to stop doing that with him. BC, I want her to feel like she could trust him. He would rather be the target. BC doesn't want her ranting to me. BC, he doesn't want me stressed. My husband basically repeated the same things we have told her already, including that this is probably hereditary and something we're going to have to deal with long term. For context, my dad's mom's side of the family has a history of gallbladder disease and liver cancer. I haven't had contact with him or any of his relatives in over 10 years. I cut them off for my own emotional and mental health. The last 2 texts she sent him circled back to the COVID vaccine and how it's not natural. She even told him that I always had problems with shots growing up, which is a flat-out lie. I was on state health insurance growing up, and she always got our vaccines on time. She thinks getting the virus will protect you. Luckily, I already had the vaccine before I caught COVID, and I'm glad I did. BC, I can't imagine how bad it would be if I had raw dogged it. She also stated that my dad's mom died of the vaccine. No one on my dad's side of the family reached out to tell me my grandma had died or invite me to the funeral. She, my mom, told me in a text message, and that was the entire conversation. My grandma had liver cancer and a liver transplant 10 years prior to her death, and I do know she had chronic pancreatitis as a result of the cancer treatment. So, I have no context as to what she means about the vaccine since I wasn't around or involved with that family. My grandma died 4 years ago, and this is the first time she's ever brought that up. After the last text, my husband just ignored her. She came back hours later and apologized, which she always does and always thinks that makes everything better and we should just all forget and move on. TL. DR. My mom is seemingly blaming me for my poor health and is pressuring my husband to sneak me supplements that could potentially be harmful.